I love the Pokémon franchise. It is by far my favorite video game series, and I would assume many people feel the same way. There are many reasons to love Pokémon. Of course, there are the cool Pokémon designs, the grandiose stories, and the list goes on. One of the things that I love about the Pokémon franchise is the interesting and sometimes weird details or Easter eggs that may have been missed or not known by the player. These details can be lots of things, such as weird origins of Pokémon, quirks about the game's development, or subtle details that Game Freak just threw in. Before we start, I'll be talking about the stories of a few of these games, so spoiler warning for these games here. With that out of the way, as an introduction to my channel, I'm Trainer Jack, and this is weird and interesting things from Pokémon you may not know. In Pokémon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and their remakes Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, north of Mauville City on Route 111, there is a house known as the Windstrait House. There you will be challenged by the 4 members of the Windstrait family: Victor, Victoria, Vivi, and Vicky. After you defeat all of them, they will give you the Mako Brace. However, that's not where this story ends. If you talk to them after their defeats, they will compliment your strength, but then they will tell you how the son of the family is much stronger than you, and has even taken on the Pokemon League challenge. As a kid, I was always hyped to have this epic battle with the Sun, but to my knowledge, I never did. I had just come to assume that he was Sydney of the Elite Four. I mean, he is a guy, and the Sun had challenged the League and not come back, who's to say I wasn't asked to join? But this theory was completely wrong. It turns out, I did have my fight. If you go to the lowest level of Victory Road, you run into a cool trainer named Cool Trainer Vito, who upon battling him states, "I trained with my whole family, every one of us. I'm not losing to anyone." Upon beating him, he'll say, "Better than my family? Is that possible?" Followed by, "I was better than everyone in my family. I've never lost before. I've lost my confidence. Maybe I'll go home." With the V at the front of his name and him constantly discussing his family, this all but confirms Vito as the fabled son of the Windstrait household, and I find that very odd. He doesn't play a bigger role in this epic fight like I had thought he would, but he's still a good nod to the setup the Windstraits left behind, and a great detail put in by Game Freak that I'm happy I looked into. In Pokémon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, behind the leftmost waterfall in Toho Falls, there is a hidden room that is not in the original games. Upon entering the room, you will be greeted with smashable rocks and a radio which, upon interacting with it, states, "There is a radio that no longer works." Of course, that's not where this story ends. Radios are involved a lot with Team Rocket in Generation 2. They first try to forcefully evolve Magikarp using radio frequencies, which can actually be picked up by your Pokegear at the Lake of Rage during that segment of the game. As well as taking over the Goldenrod radio tower in order to get in contact with their missing boss, Giovanni, ultimately on both accounts however being thwarted by the player, and this is no exception. As it turns out, their plan at the radio tower actually got a lot closer to success than one would think. If you take an event Celebi that was distributed in 2011 to promote the Zoroark Master of Illusions movie to the shrine in the Ilex Forest, you will trigger an event where you will be transported back in time by the Celebi. First to 3 years prior, during the events of Generation 1, this shows you a scene confirming Silver, your rival of the game, as the son of Giovanni, confirming a longtime fan theory had about the character. Afterwards, Celebi will transport you back to the hidden room in Toho Falls, however now during the time of the Rocket takeover. There you'll see that Giovanni is actually the one using the radio and he's listening in on the broadcast. He begins to go reunite with his allies, however you get in his way, and a battle commences. After defeating him, he states, "How? This is possible? The past 3 years have been a waste? How can a kid like you manage to destroy my dreams once again? The precious dream of Team Rocket has become little more than an illusion." Disheartened and giving up on his dream, he then leaves. You then get transported back to the present, and if you return to the cave you get a new message on the radio reading, "You cannot turn on the radio, Giovanni must have left it here." The Pokemon Hypno is infamous for kidnapping a child and feeding on the dreams of its prey. This involvement with children and dream-eating tendencies can be traced back to the folklore of what Hypno is based on, the Baku, though in Pokemon it's a darker twist. Bakus have been in Japanese mythology since the early 17th century and are described as a mythological chimera originating from China. They have many different animal appendages, such as the nose of an elephant, like on Drowsy's, and the eyes of a rhino. Soon, by the late 1700s, the Baku became associated with eating one's dreams. However, unlike Hypno, who forcefully put people to sleep to gain nourishment through their dreams, the Baku is meant to help people who are suffering from nightmares. Japanese legend says if a child having a nightmare wakes up and repeats, "Baku-san, come eat my dream," 3 times, the Baku will come into the child's room and devour the bad dream, letting the child sleep peacefully for the night. However, it is said to only use the Baku when absolutely necessary, as if he is still hungry after eating your nightmares, he will eat all your hopes and dreams, leaving you to live an empty life. I have always wondered about the origins and lore around Hypno, and finally looking into it, I was not disappointed. In Pokémon Black and White and Pokémon Black and White 2, N is a prevalent character in terms of story and expressing the themes of the narrative. One thing I always wondered as a kid was, what is N's full name? As I assumed his name wasn't just N. Well, it turns out in a 2011 interview by the director of Black and White and longtime Game Freak composer Junichi Masuda, N's full name is revealed. N's full name happens to be Natural Harmonia Gropius. The middle name is actually hinted at in N's room in Black and White by the dialogue when interacting with N's basketball, and then again by N himself in a discussion in his room during the post-game of Black and White 2, stating, "Then one day, a man appeared, claiming to be my father. That was, guess this. The things he gave me were the name Harmonia, the knowledge a king would need, Pokemon with their hearts shut so tightly I couldn't even talk to them, and this room." Masuda goes deeper, explaining that the N for natural comes from natural number, as he also states N is very good at math. N has many mathematical motifs to go along with this, such as the necklace around his belt, which resembles that of both a void cube and Menger sponge, used in both mathematics and puzzles respectively. Another weird N fact is that he was supposedly born from Pokemon. However, this topic has never been explored upon in Black and White or any games further. As we all know, in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, the leader of Team Galactic, Cyrus, sets out to use the power of Dialga and Palkia to remake the universe as he sees fit. But how did he get like this? Well, if you go to Route 228 in Pokemon Platinum, you can find a house with an old man inside. If you talk to him, he will tell you this tale. That badge. It's from Sunny Shore's gym. You've been to that port town then. Would you lend an ear to this old man's tale? No. I shouldn't burden you with this. My grandson grew up in that city by the sea. Worn down by trying to live up to his parents' expectations, he found refuge in tinkering with machines. I wonder even now if I should have taken him and raised him myself. Though I'm not certain if that would have been a good choice or not. I don't think anyone could say. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said any of this to you. Looking further around the house, you'll find many old books talking about machines, space and time, perfection, etc. As it turns out, this old man is Cyrus's grandfather, and he laments to you the fall of his troubled grandson. This gives us some good insight on why Cyrus is the man he is in the main storyline, and is a great Easter egg put in by Game Freak. In Pokemon Red and Blue, many Pokemon had different names in the beta versions of the game compared to their official releases. This was to appeal to a more American audience when they were translating the games. They wanted the names to play up the characteristics or designs of the Pokemon. A few examples of this being Cubone, being sadly called Orphan, and Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff being called Pudding and Custard respectively. The Pokemon I want to talk about here is Gyarados. Gyarados' original name was actually Skullkraken, being a mixture of skull or skulk and Kraken, as well as sounding like Skullkraken. There are a few reasons as to why they may not have used the name Skullkraken. One of the biggest ones I've seen around is the character limit of Red and Blue did not allow them to fit the name. Another reason I've seen around is licensing issues, but whatever the case may be, we ended up with the name Gyarados that we know and love today. The origins of both Magikarp and Gyarados is an interesting one too, but I think I will save that for another video. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you can, leave me some feedback in the chat. I would really love to see any ways I can be able to improve these videos for everybody watching. If you liked anything you saw here today, subscribe. I loved making this video, and I plan to make a bunch more about weird and interesting facts about the Pokemon franchise for every gen. The first video I plan to do after this is weird and interesting Kanto Pokemon origins, so a lot like the Hypno segment you saw today, but 5 or 6 other Pokemon as the start of a series. So if you like that, stay tuned. Thank you again. I'm Trainer Jack. Catch you later.